Could you talk about the relationship between stress and visceral fat? Because I know that there's a big connection there.
Huge. Yeah. So a really powerful example of this comes from a follower who shared this really interesting story with me. So he was in the film industry, and he did editing work. So your kind of your background. So he here he is in his photograph, and during this week he looks horrible because he's had 2 heart attacks, full cardiac arrest. This guy got CPR twice in 1 week. I mean, what a story. So that's a bad week. He does not look good. And then what would you imagine is the time period from his face here to this face here? What do you think? How long of a time period is it from
I don't know. I mean, a couple months, years.
So it was actually 3 months, and he significantly improved his face that much. And the only thing he really did was he quit his job that caused so much stress. And he went from doing film editing, where he was constantly under pressure, to doing this, where he worked outdoors and he did leather work.
Wow.
And now this guy is an awesome guy, such a nice guy from England. Tom does leather work for the film industry. So now he does periodic clothing. He creates the jackets and the bags and all sorts of stuff that they need for movies, only he loves it. And so you can see the tremendous change in his face. So to get back to your answer, stress is, besides processed foods, processed carbohydrates, what you eat, is a big contributor of visceral fat. And we would see persistent visceral fat. So I could take somebody, get them to clean up their diet, get them to do correct form of exercise, which really didn't get into too much, but the best form of exercise actually to get rid of visceral fat is sprinting. So I can get them sprinting and eating healthy foods, but if they have stress, then they have this persistent visceral fat in there. And it's sort of like somebody that might do exercise, but they keep eating processed carbohydrates. They still have all this visceral fat inside of them. The notion to really improve your health, Max, is doing what you're doing. You live an optimally healthy life. Every choice that you are consciously aware of, you make a choice for your health. You're not going to consciously hurt your health. You're way ahead of everybody else. Other people will be making choices mostly out of ignorance. They just don't know. But visceral fat accumulates because of stress. And this, I think, is a large area of exposure because a lot of people put up with stress in their lives. Unwittingly, they're not aware that it has this really, really harmful effect inside of them. So we would see in people, they're doing everything well, but they're stressed out. They have a huge amount of visceral fat. So what this means is I have learned as a health and performance optimizing physician that the biggest area of stress that seems to be coming in on people is how they're hunting. They hunt poorly, and meaning they hate their jobs. They got all this stress in their jobs. And so now I advocate, get out of a job that you hate, do something you love so you can reduce that visceral fat. So next week, I have the honor to be able to go and speak to Texas A&M, to a couple student groups down there. And I've been invited to talk about health optimization, what you should do in your as an 18-year-old to 21-year-old, what you should be aware of to optimize your health for the rest of your life. But I feel compelled, even though I'm just a physician in this particular space, to talk about wealth optimization, that you got to learn how to hunt and make money. Because, let's face it, if you didn't make a living out of this, Max, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing all these awesome things, and you wouldn't look so good because you'd be stressed out because you're stressed out because you can't bring home the bacon. You're not bringing home that meat when you go out and hunt.
Exactly.
And so my talk is going to be on health and wealth optimization for a lifetime, arriving at retirement debt and disease free. And so it's good to make money. You got to make a living, but you want to do that in a way that doesn't cause stress. And so hopefully I'll be able to reach these young people at Texas A&M.
Yeah, what a cool talk. You'll have to send me a link if it ever makes it online. But what is the mechanism by which stress? I know that there's a cortisol connection, our visceral adipocytes seem to be exquisitely sensitive to
Exactly.
to cortisol, which is it's the waking hormone, but it's also the stress hormone.
Yeah, so cortisol's production causes visceral adiposity, so to accumulate, and also makes it refractory. So even if you are absent eating sufficient calories, your ability to fight and burn off that fat through lipolysis is impaired in the presence of cortisol. Literally inhibits the burning of fat called lipolysis. So it's really a very, very harmful molecule to have long term. It's awesome for short term. We're meant to have stress like we're in a battle, for a fight. We're hunting. Cortisol plays a role. But today, through our vocations or jobs, we have chronic cortisol levels that far exceed our species' capacity for maintaining and benefiting from that cortisol for a short period of time. And so that added adiposity, the accumulation of that visceral fat causing all the inflammation ends up causing this harm. So instead of being this beneficial molecule that is intended to be short-term, it's this harmful molecule that hangs around and contributes to disease. So I get my clients to abate stress, one, getting rid of the lions and tigers. So kill them. If you can't solve those problems, if you can solve the problems, you kill them. But if you can't, then you got to migrate away from them. If you can't kill those lions and tigers in your life, so go get another job. But sometimes you can't migrate from these problems, and you know that. You can't change a job, or maybe it's a child that is got a fatal illness, and you cannot, you don't have a choice in that. So what do you do in that particular situation? Well, antelopes that can't get away from lions and tigers, they're stressed out, they're milling around, are actually benefited when that lion and tiger attacks and they sprint like Hades to get away. It reduces their cortisol level. So what you should do if you're listening today and you've got a persistent lion in your life and you cannot get rid of it, you cannot kill it, then you sprint.
Whoa.
Every time you have a stressful encounter, an email, a phone call from that lion or whatever is causing stress in your life, or you see it and it's a problem, you drop and do 50 push-ups. You do 20 pull-ups. You go out and do, 2 to 3, 4, 6 sprints. And you answer that stressful cortisol level with some maximum intensity exercise for a short, brief period of time. And then that abates the cortisol and the visceral fat will go away. But there's always a biological response to any kind of a scenario. And so maximum intensity exercise works far better than going to the gym for an hour and a half or going out and jogging or doing a marathon for 3 hours. You want to do maximum intensity exercise to abate that stress.
Damn, super interesting. And makes perfect sense, at least through the lens of evolution.
Yeah, and it works so good anecdotally with my clients who are stressed out. That's how they finally move ahead and start eliminating their visceral fat. It's just, it's really key imperative, and it's a bigger problem, Max, than I think most people are aware of, this accumulation of stress in their lives. And I think we need to do a better job, certainly within healthcare and in the space, health space, social media, bringing people to be aware of, to start questioning the presence and the contribution, negative contribution that stress is having, unrecognized in their lives, and how to get rid of it.
Isn't there a stressed out phenotype of like the apple-shaped body, but super skinny legs, super skinny arms?
Yeah, long term.
Yeah.
So what happens is that cortisol, and we see that it gives you, we call it in medical school a cushingoid type of look.
Cushingoid.
Cushingoid. Yeah, they get moon faces, which is that big inflamed face, from the presence of cortisol, and visceral fat deposition. So you get central adiposity with the abdomen, and then skinny legs. And so very often we see in people when we scan them, a good example is this image right here that I grabbed with 3 sets of MRIs from different people a 40-year-old, a 74-year-old, and another 74-year-old. Here we see the muscle mass declining in this person that we don't have the benefit of an abdominal MRI scan, but I can tell with that fragmenting and atrophying of the muscle, the lost sarcopenia there, that they have elevated visceral fat. And so they'll end up with skinny, tiny, scrawny legs. They're 74 here, but by the time if they live long enough, by the time they're 90, they will have very little skinny legs. And the other interesting thing is you should be aware of is the bone is black on an MRI scan. So you have these nice thick bones in this 74-year-old here with no fatty infiltrates in those muscles. See how lean they are? So they will have no visceral fat. This person will have a lot of visceral fat.
Wow.
But check out their bones, Max. Look how thin they are.
Yeah.
And so they have loss of muscle and they have loss of bone. And they will have been sedentary and a lot of visceral fat. And they probably had CTs and MRIs. And if you're listening, these are not red. Nobody warns you your muscles are falling apart. Nobody warns you you get marbling in your muscles, and nobody's warning you that your bones are thinning there. And so when you're 85 years of age and you fracture that bone because it's so thin it just breaks, your mortality is 95% certain. In 1 year, you're dead from that particular event.
Whoa.
And it's not, if you're listening, it's not from that broken bone. Because I can take this guy who's 74 and let's say he's 85, break that leg, he or she won't die. Because look at those beautiful muscles, no visceral fat. They're going to be fine for the next year. But this person, by the time they've thinned those bones that much and reduced their muscle mass, they've so destroyed their metabolism and their overall physiological health that they're not going to be able to make it. And so this is the interesting thing. You mentioned I'm a lawyer. I found this fascinating. When it comes to treatment of this person when they're 85, the doctors can look at that person and say, we're not going to treat you. We're calling hospice. You get no treatment.
Wow.
And the reason is they can point to science and says, if you needed help getting up out of a chair, then we call hospice. But if you could get up out of a chair on your own, then we'll fix it. And the difference is when they fix somebody to get up out of the chair on their own, they get better. But if you take somebody who needed help to get up out of the chair and you fix it, it doesn't matter. They're still going to die. And so literally your fate is sealed because you've arrived at the age of 85 and you can't simply get up out of a chair like that. You can't lift yourself up. And so you've lost your muscle mass and the ability to live a normal life, and it's been sinisterly, secretly taken from you through that accumulation of visceral fat, and that nobody's warning you about. But all over every encounter is your cholesterol.
Yeah.
How's that working out for you? You're 85 and you got great cholesterol, but you can't get up and out of a chair. So that's why I think it's really important. I'm so glad that you had me on your show to talk about these biomarkers.
Oh, this is life-changing information.
Yeah, it is.
Hey, if you liked that video, you need to check out this one here, and I'll see you there.